And there we go.
Hey, we got the count in there. Although
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you some feedback there. One of the
sure.
fonts was different. Is that intentional?
No, no, it's not. I haven't figured out how to fix that. It seems to happen only the first time that
Maybe
you do
is
it.
it using a web font or something, loading it in?
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be using the same font that everything is, that everything is using in the UI, but for some reason, the first number, it's like it's not cached or something, and then
Right.
after that, it's cached,
I
and
mean,
then
it's
it
kind of
doesn't
quirky,
do it.
right? So you get the countdown into recording, but it's in an unusual font for the first number.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I haven't figured out how to
Well,
fix
the
that
fix
yet.
there is just not to use a web font for that, right? Just use the browser
Yeah,
font. So
yeah,
they're all
just
in serif.
yeah. Maybe I'll just do that, like System UI or something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's nice though. That's a nice idea. So yeah,
Yeah,
for everybody else, basically, there's a there's a countdown when you start recording, so everybody knows that you're about to go. That's
yeah,
nice.
yeah. I noticed other recording tools like Loom or recording tools kind of do that, but actually it came out of necessity actually because
That's good.
there's some pre-processing stuff that needs to happen when you click the record button.
Right.
And so I need a little bit of extra couple of seconds to just get some stuff
Hmm.
going, right? Some
Cool.
stuff has
That's a
to
good
in it
excuse then.
there.
Yeah, it actually works both better for you
Both
and for the user as well. It's a bit of a warning
exactly.
of what's coming in.
Exactly. So at first I was like, okay, I need that little delay, but I don't want to just delay it. And so I
Right.
figure, okay, a countdown would be perfect. So it works both ways. So,
Nice. It's nice. Also,
and
I noticed the not recording is highlighted a bit more to make it clear that you're not recording, right? That was nice.
yeah, actually, before there was nothing at all if you weren't recording.
Ah, so you didn't actually
So
realize you weren't recording.
yeah, so one of the questions I got from someone was like, okay, it wasn't so much a question, but we were chatting and it became obvious to me that there wasn't something there that was clear enough. Like there's something there when you're recording, like right now,
Right.
that you can see that it's recording, but there wasn't anything there when you're not recording. So just to reassure you,
Yeah,
right?
make
So
it
it's
clear.
equally important, I think, to know when it's not
Oh,
recording
definitely. Because
as
again,
it
the
is.
expectation might be, well, I'm on screen, so therefore it's recording, right? I can imagine how
Yeah.
people would assume that. So make it clear.
Yeah, so I figured it would be good to add a label there for the not recording state as
Nice.
well. So there's a couple of minor changes that I had to put in. I guess I might as well share a
Go for
couple
it.
of
Yeah, yeah. Well,
other things
you're on a roll.
since we're at it. And thank you for giving me your email address to share the Notion
Yeah.
notes.
Why haven't we done this before? I don't know.
I know, right? So
We're really organized here.
I know. So
On
I sent.
on the same note, I've done show notes for that edited but not published episode like 3 times now, and because I've been just doing it in Transistor's browser interface, and then I've come back and my machine's been like, "Hey, guess what? I crashed overnight, and you've just lost the
Oh,
thing you typed in." So I'm like, "Okay,"
oh no.
I'm like, "Okay, I need to not do it in the browser. I just need so because of course listening to it, I'm like, oh, I'll type up what we the URLs we talk about and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
then yeah, just yeah, thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Or what you could do too is save it as a draft.
Right.
Just keep it
That's
as a
what I should have
draft.
done. So what I
Yeah.
did is I'll put like the show notes at the bottom of each episode in Notion, so just I can edit it in there, and then we've got a record of it anyway. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know why I didn't do that before. There's nothing worse than doing the same thing that you've already done again. It becomes like a real chore, right? First time it's like, okay, I can do this. Second time you're like, I've already done this. Why am I having to
Yeah.
do this again? The third time, really not fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate it when that happens. I was using some other tool the other day and forget which one it was, but it has like a modal
Mm,
interface. And when you hit the escape key,
mm.
if you happen to hit the escape key, it takes you out of it and you
And
lose
you're
everything that you typed.
the stuff you've entered with it, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
and it's weird though because it's like a modal,
mm,
so it should stay there.
yeah.
Typically, modals, if you don't clear it, it
Especially when there's a
stays
text
there.
entry box. Yeah, again, because this is that weird thing with, replacing stuff that the browser does for you with, JavaScript, and you lose expectations in the process, right? Because, if
Yeah,
you navigate away from a web page, it'll say, are you sure you're going to lose the data on this? Are you sure? And whereas, yeah, when you do it in JavaScript, guess what? If
Yeah.
the developer doesn't do that themselves, then
Yeah.
you lose that
Yeah.
functionality.
And I did it like twice. Also, if you click outside, it just takes you out.
That's
So
just bad.
it's
Yeah.
one time I hit escape, I lost what I was putting. And then I clicked outside and I lost it again. I was like, oh,
Yeah, actually, that's one of the things I did on dot plan was if you when you're entering text for the plans and the achievements, because they're like, intentionally one-liner things like did this, did that. They save when you click save or hit return. But for
Mhm,
the free-form text section, I save every like 2 or 3 seconds, just so you can navigate away, come back, and it's just there. Expectation is like, it's if you've typed it in, then you probably don't want to lose it, right? So I mean, that's
mhm,
one of the nice things that live view is like so trivial to do that, and it's kind of nice
mhm.
to have that.
Nice. Yeah,
Sorry,
that's cool.
interrupted you there.
Oh, no, no, no worries. It's all free flowing here.
Just
Free flowing
free flow.
conversation. Yeah. So you might notice I have some
Foam.
sound foam back
Hmm.
here behind me. So I got a few panels the other day,
Nice.
and I had them last time we met, but I forgot to mention it. And I didn't get enough apparently because I don't like the square that you can see like.
Window there, right?
Yeah.
Either
So
that
I got
or
more
yeah, you maybe spread them out. It doesn't have to be all like continuous, right?
all together. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I did get more though, so I might just, I don't know,
It's,
add more
your
and
room
just
does sound a little bit more echoey than mine. I don't know whether mine
really.
because I'm not. I have both curtains and I'm sat not square to any wall, so I don't know if
Hmm.
it's just the angle I'm at. Whereas you have
Mm.
effectively a flat wall in front of you, right? So
Yeah, I do, and I have some curtains here on the side for the window, but they're
mm,
open right now,
right,
so
right.
they're not.
Mm.
I should. That's a good idea. I should probably just close them when we record so that it absorbs more sound because they're there. I should use them. But the other walls don't have much. I mean,
Mm.
I have
Yeah,
picture frames and what
yeah.
have you,
Should
but
it all helps, right?
nothing soft
Mm.
that can
Hmm.
absorb. That's why I put these
Yeah,
foams behind me. So hopefully this helps a little bit. And I got more, so I'm gonna fill it up more.
nice. Yeah.
So it'll have a nice absorbing area there. So hopefully that makes for a little
It's
better
having
sound.
seen my brother go through the fun of soundproofing things for a studio is kind of like I don't understand it. It's very complicated to get it sounding right, but it's kind of magic when he does
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. No,
It's a
this is
black
all
art.
I'm doing. I'm just, just trying to improve it a little bit and that's it. And yeah, I'll leave it at that because otherwise, yeah, I can't spend too much time on that. But yeah, hopefully it sounds better going forward with
Hmm.
that. I finally ran a really long Ethernet cable from my router downstairs
Nice.
up to my office space here.
So we're gonna get nice
And
solid 5 bar signal now, right?
yeah, and it seems to be
Seems to be better.
working
Yeah.
good.
I mean,
Yeah.
it made such a massive difference to my quality of life here. And the crazy thing is, I can see the router. It's there. I could throw this at it, right?
Yeah.
But it's yeah, I got this ridiculously long flat Ethernet cable and just like
Yep.
went all the way around the apartment, and it's
Yeah.
ridiculous because I say it's right there, but to get there to there and not trip over it, it's like it's very long.
Yeah.
It's weird, right? You measure it and it's never long. You're like it can't possibly be like that many meters, and you're like actually throw in an extra 5 because you'll want to go around the corner there and everywhere.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's crazy how
Totally.
yeah the actual circumference is way longer than you think it should
It's
be.
way longer if you're going around things and going,
Hmm.
up and down and
Right.
just to get it out of the way. And that's exactly what I had to do. And I did get the flat type, and we have baseboards that are white. So I
Nice.
got the white flat cable.
Nice.
And so I ran it all along the baseboard as inconspicuous as possible. And I went and I had to go around a door frame downstairs and then back down. It's just like a long route to get all the way up here.
Yeah.
And so I got a 100-foot cable
Yeah.
to make sure that I had enough.
That's better too much than too little, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But it's crazy just how much of a difference it makes. Again, it's well worth it.
yeah. It's really nice.
Congratulations, happy new Ethernet.
Yeah. Thanks. I released a couple of bug fixes that were really necessary to improve the recording reliability.
Hmm.
So, including this 3-second countdown and a couple of other things that I needed to fix and make more robust.
Does that mean you're closer to
So,
release?
yes, definitely. And this is it. Hopefully, nothing else comes up that gets reported by users, and not planning on touching any more features or doing any of that for now.
Yeah.
So, after those bug fixes I released yesterday. Actually, I don't really have anything else that's pressing
Really?
that I
No
need to do.
blockers
I
now, so
mean,
that you're happy with all the reliability of the recording. Yeah,
so far, yeah,
excellent.
so far so good. Yeah, if nothing else comes up, crossing fingers here.
So that the remaining thing is the subscription partitioning, right? The restrictions.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's the one remaining thing. Yeah.
yes, and I started working on that already. So I filed for my business entity. So I am waiting for that to go through the whole
Does
process.
that take long? Yeah.
Yeah, it can take a couple of
Oh,
weeks,
okay,
but
that's not too bad.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
not too bad.
It's I'm assuming it's reasonably. Is it done online? Reasonably straightforward.
I am using an online service to
Oh,
do it,
okay.
but they file for you
Right.
with the state,
Hmm.
so they're
Is that is it LLC there that you do?
LLC.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah. So, and actually, an issue came up that I had to deal with. They sent me an email that they needed some information that wasn't correct or something, and took care of that today. So now, hopefully, the process will continue and move forward. And within a week or two, hopefully, I'll have that taken
All
care of.
official again.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yep.
I forget. It's there. You have to. It's not too expensive to do in the US. I think, is it?
It's not too expensive. The fee actually, if you do it yourself, the because you could definitely
Mm.
file with the state yourself,
Right.
do it all yourself, which is the way I did it before,
Mm.
a few years ago when I formed
Okay, you
my
did it yourself
first.
last time. Yeah.
Yeah, I did it myself last time, and it was also an LLC, and it was only like less than $100 for the
Hmm.
filing fee,
Nice.
plus some other expenses related to that. I think overall it was around maybe a couple hundred
Okay,
dollars.
that's cool.
But this time around, I'm using a service because I just don't want to be dealing because it's not that complicated, but it
No.
just takes time,
Yeah,
and
exactly. It's
and then
life's
if
too
you do it
short.
with the state, they don't. I don't think unless they have a way to do it online now with the state. Back when I did it, it was all by mail because there was no way to do it online.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have that now, but I just didn't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
So it's money well spent just to pay a service to do it for you, and
Absolutely.
it's all electronic because I'm just dealing with them, and they deal with the state.
They just know what they're doing, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
so stressful, this stuff anyway. It's like, doing
yeah,
taxes and things. It's like I kind of know what I should be doing, but every single thing you doubt yourself and you're like, am I doing this right? Is there something I should know that I don't know? It's one thing, anything that removes anxiety and stress is well worth paying a little bit of money for if you can.
yeah, yeah. And at some point, I considered using Stripe
Mm,
Atlas for that,
hmm.
but from what I understand, they don't do LLCs like this. Like
Right.
I'm filing with the state of California,
Hmm.
forming it
Right.
with the state of
I think
California,
you'd
and I
have to
think
do a.
Stripe
Is
Atlas
it that you do a
is
Delaware corporation if irrespective
Delaware.
of where you are, right?
Yeah, yeah, they do it with Delaware, and they do. I don't think it's an LLC. They
Right.
do like
C
a C
corp,
corp
right? Hmm.
or S corp
I
or
think
one
that
of
there is
those.
some options, but yeah, I mean, it didn't really fit for what I needed either. So I think we talked about that
Yeah,
before, but it makes sense.
and it's a bit pricey too. It's more than what I'm paying this other service to do the LLC.
It's
So.
interesting. It sounds like it sounds like a really interesting product, but who it's right for is not that wide, really. I think
Mhm.
there's definitely cases where it really makes sense, but my first understanding was it would work for a lot more people than it probably does. So but I think the idea behind it is really powerful, and I think
Yeah,
that just being able to democratize that down to one entity that you deal with, and it's a known fixed quantity in terms of price, and just making it a very known process that you can just follow the process through, whereas
right.
everything else feels a bit like you're kind of figuring it out yourself. And
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, it doesn't take too long. And I also started working on the terms of use and privacy policy. I'm using a service for that too.
I
I'm
was going to
paying
ask if you, yeah,
for. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called iUbenda.
yeah, that
It's
was the
pretty
one.
well known.
Yeah, that's the one I looked at
Yeah,
as well. Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. I was going to use them, and I think I still am. I'm using it as kind of a reference to some of the stuff. But again, because I have to be Japan first legally, I basically had to use a Japanese one and then have an English translation of that. And I'm still not comfortable with that. There's there's questions that I don't understand the answers to, where
Yeah.
I stand on certain things, but from everything I believe I'm doing right. But yeah, it's
Mhm.
again one of those things. It's just better to go with something.
Yeah, yeah. At least, I mean, they're not, it's not like
Right.
a lawyer level
Yes. Yeah.
kind of thing, but
Mhm.
it's at least a more guided way of establishing something to get started with,
Right.
at least.
Yeah.
And it's not just I'm not just doing it by myself
Right.
without any sort of guidance. And so it's worth, paying for the
Yeah,
service.
it's
And
not expensive. I remember.
it's not that expensive, and I really like it so far. They've really have distilled the whole, terms of use and privacy policies and
Yeah.
cookie policy and
Right.
all that stuff.
Especially, yeah, the California cookie policies and privacy policies are quite strong, aren't they? Oh, the laws are
Hmm.
quite strong there. So yeah, making sure
Yeah.
that you just covered for all of those. Again, especially since we're dealing with, storing people's valuable information and you're recording
Yep.
them as well. So yeah, it's better to
Exactly.
cover your bases and make sure you're in the right, just because you don't want to screw up this stuff, right?
Yeah. Exactly. The nature of the product is such that we're recording the likeness of people, their voices and their image, and
Hmm.
and so it's I yeah, like you said, I don't want to get it wrong. And
Yeah.
as soon as I can, I'm gonna run it by a lawyer. But for
Hmm.
now, I'm just using the iUbenda service, and I think that'll be fine for now. And it's really easy to use, very helpful. Just a lot of just point and click,
Yeah, exactly.
and
It's just like knowledge based thing. Go through. Is it this? Is it this? Is it? Yeah, and then
yeah,
it's like, here's your
yeah,
policies. Oh, nice.
yep,
And you can just
yeah,
link to them directly on their site, right? So you don't even have
you
to worry
can,
about hosting it and things. Yeah, and then
yeah,
if there's any changes legally, they let you know. And again, it's
yeah,
fine if you know where you stand right now, but things change, and it's better to be
yeah.
safe than sorry, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I like that you can embed it on your site, but it's still linked to their
Yep.
system. So if you update anything, it just gets updated automatically
Hmm.
on your site. So
Nice,
very nice.
nice one.
So yeah, so that's what I've been working on, and going forward for the next, I don't know, a couple of weeks or so, I'm just gonna be focusing on that sort of thing. I'm also updating the marketing website to reflect the changes in the product and all of this stuff, the terms of use
Cool.
and privacy policy and all that. Just gearing up to a launch
Hmm.
soon. Also working on figuring out pricing.
Yeah. So what's your latest thinking on that? You got any further?
Well, a
Have you
little
applied to
bit. Not.
Paddle? Is the question as well.
Oh, I created an account with Paddle
Okay.
also, but since I don't have my business entity
Business
formed yet,
entity. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's kind of
yeah.
like pending right now.
Gotcha.
But I was so eager to get started that I didn't want to wait, so I created an account with them, and right now it's like it's halfway there
Right.
because I don't have
Sure.
all the
Yeah,
information.
yeah. They have a sandbox as well. So if you really wanted to play around with the billing
Hmm.
stuff, the sandbox is good.
Hmm, nice.
Have you figured out
Um,
what numbers you're going to actually charge?
so the numbers I don't have yet, but I have figured out that I'm not gonna have any free plans, credit card upfront, and possibly, well, not possibly, I will have a at least like a 7-day trial period.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Might not be based on number of days like that. It might
Mm.
be based on number of minutes that you can use the product with.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Number of minutes that you can record
That's true. I
or
mean, you could always have
or
like
record.
like a 30-minute session or something, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the only problem with that is that that can extend things because if they don't
Mm.
use it up, it could go on for who knows how long until
Right.
they use that up.
I mean,
But instead, if I say like 7-day trial,
mm.
then that
They
it
could record a lot
expires.
of audio in 7 days, though. So you kind of don't want
So
to. You
that's
want to. Actually, I mean, I guess that what you could
that's
do
the
is
other thing.
create an additional subscription plan that is like a limited one that is hidden from your normal subscription list. But when you join the trial, it drops you into that unless they choose a high plan, right?
Hmm.
Something like that.
So it would be like
You could have trial plan effectively. That is because paddle. So because you got this strange thing because you want to. So what I'm doing is not taking credit card up front, which means that
okay.
my trial is out of pattern. So it's basically just create an account and using the site. Just after 7 days,
Hmm.
it says, oh, so 14 days, it says you can't use it anymore unless you select a plan. But
I see.
you have the option on Paddle of saying, what's your trial period? And you can say 7 days. I'm just wondering if there's, because that you don't want to switch plans either, do you? Because that would require their permission.
Right. Right.
Mm,
So maybe what I could do is 7, like they do with cars, with a car warranty.
Right.
Like
Okay. Refund
7 days
policy,
or
money
30
back.
minutes recording whatever comes,
Oh, right,
whichever
whichever
comes
comes
first.
first. Yeah, okay, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
something like
Basically,
that.
that would do it, wouldn't it? So you'd have to manage that obviously internal yourself, but
Yeah.
unless they, yeah, because I'm trying to think, the data you get back from paddles tells you if they're in a trial period or not. But
Okay.
obviously, if they subscribe to a higher, yeah, because you're not going to put the subscription plan straight away, are you? Right? They'll just put in a credit card, get into the trial plan. So
Hmm.
actually, you could have an additional trial plan that's hidden. So when they join the trial plan, which is, you can track and say, okay, this
Hmm.
is, and then when they exceed that, you say, okay, you need to upgrade your plan to one of these other two.
Hmm.
But obviously, that's
Hmm.
still a bit complicated because they could abuse the system within 7 days quite heavily, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
That's
the
the
easy
problem.
way is don't have a trial to start off with. Just buy yourself a little bit of time rather than trying to solve this like before you launch. Launch with
Hmm.
just say, full money back if you're not happy. Complete refund,
Money.
and that would put that off to another day because I think that's going to be complicated to manage, or at least more complicated than you should be dealing with to get this thing launched.
Yeah,
And plus,
that's true.
you're not even sure exactly what it should be, right? You might say, maybe I can afford to give them, more than 30 minutes. Or maybe it should be a 2 week period because people aren't using it straight away. They've got, something planned within the future. So just
Hmm.
forget that and just say, you've got a full money back. If within the first month, you can just complain and we'll just full money back. You can delete their recordings, you save your space, and they get their money back, no one problem. So make that clear, and I think you'd save
Hmm.
yourself a whole lot of problems.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Yeah, that's really good. Thanks
Because
for that.
it's complicated. I mean, having
Yeah.
been through this process of just writing subscription stuff myself, it seems like, well, if people pay, then I bump their subscription and it's fine. But there's so
Yeah.
many edge cases in terms of, like you bill them on the same date every month, right? If they join on the 8th, then you bill them the next 8th. And just being able to, knowing that this is when you build them, this is what they're allowed to do, but then they've cancelled on the 10th, which means you bill them still, they're within their paid period, but you have to cancel, the next 7th. And how
Hmm.
much do they use to that? There's so many little things that oh God, I've got to deal with that. And adding this complication feels like something you don't want to deal with right now.
And that's, yeah, yeah, for sure. And
It's
that's
not.
something that you have to deal on your end, right? You have to add that logic to
I mean,
to
yeah, because I
your
mean,
app.
either they can use your system or they can't, right? In theory, but
Yeah.
when can they use it to? If somebody cancels, it's up to you whether they get a refund or whether they go through to the next billing period. If they're on an annual billing cycle, maybe you you want to cancel now and give them their money back. But again,
Hmm.
that's you've got to deal with that somehow. And each one of these things is an additional bit of logic that you have to keep track of. And yeah, it's way more complicated than you first
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can up that.
This is also influencing like how I think about billing going forward in general, just because, thinking, oh yeah, I'll have 3 price plans, that's no problem, or I'll do metered billing, and it's every single option has complications. So
Right.
anything you can do to chop off an option is good. So that's my
Yeah.
recommendation of the day.
Yeah. No, that's golden right there. Yeah, I appreciate that.
I mean, giving a
Thank
refund
you
is
for that.
no big deal, right? You just click cancel and refund, and that's it. You might
Yeah.
even if you take a fee hit on the credit card, whatever, it's only going to be small amount, and
Yeah.
you've already paid for the hosting, so yeah, you would lose on it, but it's way easier than spending a few days or weeks coding this.
Yeah, and trying to figure that out. And what if it's, not right and then it gets all complicated, and
Yeah.
yeah, it can get, it's a big headache. So
And again, I
it's
think you'll
not
find
worth it.
most people will be like, I mean, I've never asked for a refund for anything, like software wise. If it's not right for me, I'll cancel and take it as a hit. Oh, I paid for it for a month. It's not right. I cancel it.
Yeah.
It's kind of just an acknowledgement that it's not working out. And,
Hmm.
it's not like your monthly fee is going to be, hundreds or thousands of dollars, right? So,
Right.
it's just the cost of doing what you do. People pay for stuff.
No, that sounds good. That sounds great. So it'll be no free plan, credit card up front, no real trial period, just the three. I'm thinking about three plans,
Yeah.
three tiers. I thought about just two, but I think three would be good to have like that middle one that's like the most popular one, right? So
The unrealistic huge one, which nobody's going to buy, or if they do, yay.
yeah,
The small one,
yeah.
which a bunch of people will probably get because I really don't want to pay for it, but I guess I have to. And then there's the middle one, which hopefully everyone's like, well, that sounds like a good value.
Yeah, yeah, like right down the middle, you know. I anticipate that some people that record very occasionally as well, might just want something that's small, like a
Mhm.
small
It's
small plan.
interesting. We related to that, and we're one of the projects I'm involved with. We're starting a podcast. The other people are starting a podcast, but they're using a pod production, I guess, agency, but it's a person
Hmm.
who will effectively manage the I don't want to say technical, but our people are recording, doing the interviews. The other person is
Hmm.
effectively doing the edit, the show notes, the publishing, and also set up the technical stuff for the recording. So
So they're doing all the production stuff,
basically, yeah,
production,
production. I guess
post-production.
that's it. But
Yeah.
pre-production and post-production in terms of getting the recording right and then editing it and dealing with what Transistor does, in terms
Hmm.
of publishing, editing the show notes, things like that. So it's
Hmm.
interesting that that kind of person could be a very nice plan for you, right? That's almost like that top tier, agency plan that that they're producing but they're producing podcasts for multiple clients.
Yeah,
There's some way of effectively managing that, and they just say, here's your URL for you, here's your URL for you, you know hit record when
yeah,
you're ready to start, and they get the stuff for editing. uh,
exactly. Yeah,
so that could be a
yeah.
nice kind of client for you, right? Because
That would be, but it would require more features than what I have
right.
now. Because I actually had someone contact me about they were interested in FusionCast, but they wanted to have a feature that some other services have it, services that are out there similar to FusionCast, and they have this. I think they call it user mode,
Okay.
where you join as a producer, and so you're part of the session, but
Right,
you're
right.
not there, but you can interact with people if you need to, and then you have options that no one else has
Mm-hmm.
as the
You could do the start the
producer,
recording
I
and
think.
things
Yeah.
like that. You could mute people, I guess, potentially, and
Yeah, there's like
yeah,
all these little, different
yeah.
features that producer mode would have to have. I'm not sure exactly how,
Hmm.
like what it entails, because I haven't really looked
Right,
into it,
right.
because that's something for the future. I
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I'm trying not to
No,
focus on
I know.
that stuff now. So yeah, so I agree with you. That would be a really good channel right
Mm.
there, that kind of
Because
customer,
I
right?
mean, just from everything that I'm hearing and the feedback we're getting from just talking to people about this, it's really kicking off just in terms of the number of people that are wanting. I mean, you think, oh my god, there's too many podcasts, it's already oversaturated, and then you realize the amount of people that are wanting to get into it, and interestingly, pay for them to be made. The actual podcast
Hmm.
production services industry seems to be really growing rapidly.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's definitely a good potential future thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Totally.
don't think what you've got. I don't think there's crazy amount. Even for a first version, you wouldn't have to add all of that at first. It's just a case of like somebody sets it up and gets the recordings back, right? That a lot of the
Hmm.
time they're not going to be present because they just get the files back when they're done. But
Exactly.
definitely that'd be nice because you've got the feature to have multiple podcasts for yourself, right? So you can
Yep.
create multiple. So you already got a lot
Yep.
of those features already. So
And the Teams feature is there underneath, because I
remember we
designed
talked
it.
about that, right?
Yeah, with that in mind. It's just I need to surface it at some point, and tie all the loose ends and make it all, just wire it up. The bones are there, under the hood. So yeah, I can't wait to get to that point, because that's something that nobody
You know
else
what you
has.
have to do?
And
You have to launch version 1 first.
I know.
This
I'm
is
trying.
my segment for harassing you about launching, right?
I'm trying to get there.
I know.
No, but I am feeling pretty confident now, and I'm pretty happy with how it's working. And I think it's mature enough that I can feel confident launching. And
You should. It's really good.
you know,
It's ready. It's just you got to get that
we'll
past that final, finishing line now, and
we'll see
then
if
that's
it's.
or rather the starting line.
Yeah, right. Hopefully it scales. That's the next thing
Yeah, I suppose. Well,
that I need to get a proof of that, the product performing at scale. And I can't do that unless I
unless you've got
launch and I
users.
have
Yeah,
a
exactly.
lot of users using it, right? So it's like a catch-22 there. But also, well, I think that's it. I'm
Cool.
gonna leave the rest for the next time, so that to give you a chance to share and.
The big thing here was I mentioned last time that I was building an iOS/Android app that's just a wrapper around the application. So I published the Android version, and the client has downloaded it and playing with it. So up until now, it was on the Android internal test system, which was a bit confusing to get set up just because I've never touched I don't know Android at all, and I
Yeah.
know the Play Store process even less. But
Yeah.
it was very straightforward once I kind of figured it out. And a whole lot less complicated than the iOS system, that's for sure. In terms of just being able to, for getting the approval process for Google took like 2 days. I completely forgot to give them a login for this so that they could test it. But when it was like, oh yeah, completely forgot to enter that, filled it in, and it was like 3 hours later it got approved. So yeah, compared to
Nice.
iOS, which I've waited weeks for in the past, it
Oh
was
man.
very easy. And just publishing updates, I'm just editing the notes, being able to add translations for the notes. The interface is very googly, but it's very understandable, and
Okay.
yeah, it seems fine. So I'm kind of cheating and using Expo because it's React Native, and Expo gives
Okay.
you a bunch of like build tools and freebies out of the box. And just because I'm not really pushing the app, it's nothing complicated. It's it's literally a wrapper around a web view that just checks if you've got network, does a splash screen, intercepts URLs if it needs to open into a browser or open within the application. So there's a few
Hmm.
things that it just checks for, but it's really simple. But the key
Hmm.
for the client is that it gives them an application icon and a thing to tell their staff to say, go and download .plan from the App Store or Play Store, sorry, and
Hmm.
use your normal login, and that's it. So they can do their time card stuff, everything like that. It's that was their key thing. It's like, we can't spend time explaining to people how to do this on their phone. They just need to go and download it. They
Hmm.
know how to install apps. They don't know how to deal with PWAs or anything like that. That's just confusing for them. So I can understand that in theory this should just be a PWA, right? It should
Yeah.
just be a web page that they can install on their phone. But we know that you can do that, and we know the process, and most
Yeah.
people don't, and it's still confusing for them. So just being able to tell their staff to go and download it from the App Store, no problem, they can do that. So that
Yeah.
required a few interesting things, like I made a different sign in set of sign-in screens for the mobile app, just so it formatted better. It gives like an intro page, you click through, and it's less web and more app looking. So it did that, but yeah, that kind of went reasonably smoothly so far.
Nice.
There's a few things I want to improve with the app. It's rechecking for when your network comes back. It doesn't do very well. I
Mm.
think that's
Okay.
just I need to relook at it. Things like
And do you mean like when the device goes to sleep or something like that, and
Yeah,
then
basically, if
comes
you
back?
lose your network and then network comes back, the app goes, "Oh, there's no network," and then when the network comes back, it's like still no network, and you're like, "No, you've got network now. Do something about it." So I think my
Yeah.
code checking the network availability needs. I need to debug that, but I mean, it works
Yeah.
99% of the time. It's just there's a few cases where things go a bit weird,
Huh.
so just edge cases that I need to fix. But the fact that it's working, and they could do this for that client, it's a good start. So that was an interesting process. And I added it was also kind of a request from them, but something I intended to do anyway. And so it was like just meant it got bumped up the priority list a little bit, which is when you log time. This is related to the time tracking feature of it.
Mhm.
It gives you, your time cards, a list of all of the times you've checked in and checked out, but also now gives an overview of how many hours per project you were checked in on, which, because of the way they're using it, and just in general, it's interesting. It's both interesting and to some clients essential to know those numbers straight off, right? So whenever you see time cards, or however you filter them, if you filter them by project or by user or by, date range, however, it will show the total hours per project and the total hours total for all of those, both on the web, and then if you export to Excel, it includes them on there as well. So that was it. It's one of those things that, yeah, it's obvious and it should be there, but I hadn't done it. But it's also one of those things that so I'm using Elixir for this, right? And I'm not super experienced at Elixir. I started Elixir, or even functional programming in general. I've done Ruby for so long. Using Elixir was like, oh, this looks similar. It's just a little bit different. And then, for normal stuff, it is, right. Normal, just, putting stuff from the database and putting it on the web page, just general stuff is fine.
It's just basic CRUD
yeah,
stuff.
Exactly. That's it kind of looks very Ruby. Then certain things like just being able to, and how I deal with this. I've got all of these things. I pull them all in from the database anyway in order to put them on the screen. How do I kind of calculate totals and reduce these and do map reduce stuff and things just for creating values out of this data? Again, in Ruby, I know how to do it, but just thinking slightly differently functionally, it was, it's always a good learning experience. So it's kind of like, I have to learn something new, which is always fun. So I kind of feel my Elixirisms or just being able to do idiomatic Elixir getting better all the time, just because I'm kind of outside of the putting stuff on a page. There's, especially when creating these Excel sheets for the export. It's just like, here's a load of data, trying to transform it and kind of map it to different things. It's straightforward enough, but it's stuff I hadn't done before in Elixir, so it's interesting and a good experience to learn that. So yeah, that's been keeping me
awesome.
busy. Elixir is really nice. It's because I said before, my normal the paying day job is Ruby, so it just feels so lightweight when after doing a day of Ruby, spending a few hours doing both LiveView and Elixir, it just feels so easy to do things. And I mean, the ridiculous thing is Ruby's, especially Rails, has this reputation for just being able to do things really quickly, right? It's got so much functionality baked in. But I now find myself being able to do it in Elixir quicker and with less fuss, even though there's much less of it. There's less framework, there's less language features. It still feels like it's just lighter. So I'm really enjoying it, and I'm glad I chose to use Elixir and Phoenix for this. It's the right choice.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, one of my criteria when I decide to work on any project is whether I'm going to be learning something new, and how the general advice is that you should stick to what you know and the stack that you know, because that's going to help you get there faster and so on, which is totally valid, and I agree 100%. But at the same time, it's good to learn new things. So if there's any possibility to learn something new, right, it's even better.
I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, by every single bit of advice would be that I should not have done this in Elixir and LiveView, right? Just because I know Rails so well, and especially Rails recently has had some pretty interesting improvements with their, what do they call it, hotwire stuff. So enabled to be doing more interactive pages and things. But I just find the model of LiveView to be better for what how I expect it to work, and just the end result feels better to me. And it's I still Rails pays my rent and has done for a very, very long time, so I'm not dinging it at all. And again, my choice for the client, it was up to me, but for the client, there's no way I would push Elixir on them, just because it's still there's not many people know it, right? And knowing that we would essentially have to employ others for short periods of time, get freelancers on it, get contractors on it, knowing that was a prerequisite, there's no way and especially since I didn't know it well either, it'd be like, hey, let's do this thing that none of us know. That's probably not a good idea. So absolutely, in theory, I should have just stuck with Rails, but I'm glad I didn't. And
but then you wouldn't know all of that you now know.
I mean, this is how I learn, right? And this is how I maintain some form of sanity working in this
Yeah.
business, right? Is
Yeah.
by learning and doing new stuff. If I was just doing the same thing every day, I'd go
It
crazy.
just gets
Yeah,
boring and unmotivating,
right.
right?
And I enjoy the constant stimulation of being out of my depth, right?
Yeah.
Which it feels like every
Oh
day
yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Tell me about it.
So
Building this thing, it's been like, oh man. Sometimes if I had known how challenging it was gonna be, I probably would have never started. But it started as a little experiment. Oh, let me see if I can get the video camera on the browser.
right, right.
And it was like, oh cool, I get the
We got it.
camera video on the browser. It looks great.
I
Didn't
remember
know
when
like
you
all the
explained it.
million.
I was like, all out of all the projects which you could have chose, you picked a real problem, difficult
Yeah.
one. Yeah, I mean,
Oh man.
it's again in hindsight. I think we've said before. My project, it's aimed too big. It's difficult to compete with. That type of product in that scale of that position is kind of difficult to aim for when you're a single person, right? As opposed to selling
Yeah.
to a more niche or smaller crowd, it's much more easy to be targeted.
Yeah.
But hey, you live and learn, and it's a learning experience. I find it difficult to just accept somebody else's tellings, teachings. Just
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay, they said this, I should do that. That doesn't work for me. I'd rather
Yeah.
suffer through it and learn out just the pains by doing it myself. And
Yeah.
same with coding, right? I could read a million textbooks or examples, and then the first line of code you're like, don't I don't feel comfortable with this. But by suffering and basically figuring it all out yourself by building a project, you're constantly pushing yourself and learning, and that's what keeps me somewhat sane.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is these projects, if they're not the main thing that you're hoping to make a living out of, at least for now, if it's a side project. So there can be an opportunity to learn something new because you don't, yeah, you want to get there as soon as you can, or, use the stack that you know so that you can get
Right.
there faster. But you have your main job, and then this is just a side project, and you want to be learning new stuff at the same time, then why not?
Yeah.
It's
If it was a case of I didn't have any other source of income and I needed to start earning money next week desperately, then I
yeah,
might have
then
thought differently about it, right?
yeah, exactly.
But at the same
Yeah.
time, that's again, I probably wouldn't be building a SaaS if that was my problem, right? Just because the
Yeah.
ramp up speed is much, have to be something I can sell now, right? Rather than
Yeah.
I've got to build it.
Yeah. Yeah. More like an info
Right,
product or
right.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, so but it's a learning process, and glad I did it the way I did. Some kind of.
Nice.
Also, the one
Nice.
thing I've got to do this week is I mentioned the co-working space, rather the
Mhm.
startup hub that I'm a member of. They want to record me doing a pitch for my product, like a 10-minute pitch that they can send to companies that we can work through together. So that they obviously are affiliated or have contacts within a huge number of companies in the city. So they're like, okay, if you can record a pitch, we can put subtitles on for Japanese. We've got Japanese slides as well. They want to send it to, we can pick like 10 companies that we can start to approach with. And so they want me to record that this week. So I have to put my pitch head on again.
Nice.
It's only to a video, but it's kind of just getting in that frame of mind of like,
Oh yeah.
it's have to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
into that mindset again.
Yeah. Yeah. And how long is it
Just
supposed to
10
be?
minutes.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So not too bad,
Nice.
but especially since I know the kind of customers. That they want to go through with me for us to pick who we want to
Mhm.
send it to. I can kind of tailor the pitch a little bit towards though. Again, there'll be Japanese companies, so I know which aspects of my product work better for them than internationally. So I'm gonna try and shape it into something that works for them. So
Yeah.
that's my task this week as well.
Nice. Nice. And I guess you could qualify that as kind of
It's
marketing, right?
marketing. Yeah,
Marketing.
right.
It is
It's
marketing,
sales,
right?
marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Yes,
That's
there you go.
that's
Do
cool.
some.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you if you've had a chance to do more in that
Sadly, no.
area.
Yeah, that was just getting this Android out was kind of priority there, and these other changes,
Mhm.
just because they're switching over from their existing systems to this for their time tracking stuff, like very soon. So it was like, okay, I want
Oh,
to make
wow.
sure that
Okay.
they don't have any problems. So that was the immediate priority for them. But that's done. So now I can switch to marketing mode for a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
Need
Nice.
to.
Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. Well, good luck with your presentation,
Thank you.
and yeah, I'm sure you'll be good. You'll
I'll
knock it
try.
out of the park. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I enjoy doing it, but it's still, I don't know. It's like anything, you do something yourself and you try and compare it to other people. It's like, oh god, I'm so bad at them. Especially public speaking. I enjoy it, but I don't know how. It's really difficult to measure yourself against how other people do it. But I will do my best, and it's kind of fun to do. So we'll see how it
Yeah,
goes.
yeah. You'll be fine. I
Oh yeah,
saw the other one you did the other day, and I mean a while
yeah.
back, and it was good. It
Thank you,
was good.
thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yep.
I need to just arrange a time this week for that, but that's about it.
Cool. All right. So should we wrap it up here? Do you
Sounds
have
good.
anything else?
No, I think that's me.
All right. Cool. See you in a couple of weeks. And
Yes, yeah. Want to hear all about your how your launch went?
yeah, I know, right? I hope.
You're going to
Hopefully,
surprise me one day and say, actually, yeah.
yeah.
I hope.
Hopefully, I have the business entity formed by
Yeah.
then.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry, trying to keep my dog from
Having fun
making
with
too
your
much
dog.
noise here. It's like getting
Yeah,
restless
I was
here.
going to say, he's like, stop talking, play with me.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think that's a good reason to finish that. Give dog
All
some
right.
attention.
Yeah, yeah, true. And your day is just getting started, right? So you
Pretty much.
probably
Yeah.
need to get some work done
Yeah.
and stuff. I'm wrapping up my day here, and so yeah, see you in a
Catch you
couple
in
of
a couple of
weeks.
weeks. Cheers, man.
All right, Alan.
Later.
It was great as always.
As always.
Take care.
Cheers.